I want to start off, inshallah ta'ala, by telling you the story, or part of the story, of a well-known sinful person. This is a man who lived in the 2nd and 3rd century of the Islamic calendar, and his name was Abdullah ibn Maslama al-Qa'nabi. Some of you may know who he is, some of you may not, but basically in his younger life, he lived in the town of Basra in Iraq. And in Iraq, in the town of Basra, he was known to be like the town drunkard. Right, so they would often see him stumbling about town, drinking, kind of out of his mind and this and that. And a lot of people would just, when they would see him and his friends, they're like, oh, the hooligans or whatever, they would just ignore them. And so one time, Abdullah ibn Maslam al-Qa'nabi, he's in the marketplace, and he sees a crowd of people gathering around someone. And in his drunken state, he gets very curious. And he stumbles over to the crowd, and he starts pushing people aside. And he's like, who are you talking to? Who is this? Why is everybody so concerned with this individual? Who is this? And a few people in the crowd, they shout out, they say, this is Shu'ba. And he says, وَمَنْ Shu'ba? And he says, and who is Shu'ba? And they say, this is Shu'ba ibn al-Hajjaj. And they say, and he says, and who is Shu'ba ibn al-Hajjaj? Who is that? And they say to him, al-Muhaddith, Shu'ba al-Muhaddith. This is the famous scholar of Hadith, Shu'ba. Like, people are like, how do you not know who this is? And he goes, okay. He goes, anta muhaddith. He says, you're a muhaddith. And now, he's stumbling, and, he's kind of slurring his words. And then he turns to him like this is basically like, this is Abdullah ibn Maslama and Shu'ba talking to one another in a crowd of people. And he goes, if you're a muhaddith, he goes, فَحَدِّثْنِي. He goes, if you're a muhaddith, give me a hadith, tell me a hadith. And now, subhanallah, this great scholar, Shu'ba ibn al-Hajjaj, he looks at this guy, he's like half out of his mind, he's stumbling all over the place. He's like, what am I going to say to you? He goes, مَا أَنْتَ مِنْ أَصْحَابِ الْحَدِيثِ. He goes, you're not from the people of hadith. Meaning, in order for me to transmit a hadith to you, in order for me to narrate a hadith to you, you have to be in a better state of mind, right? You have to have some high level of character. You have to be someone who has a certain level of morality. And it is very evident from your behavior right now that you're not from the people of hadith. And then Abdullah ibn Maslama, he says to him, he goes, hadithni illa. He goes, give me a hadith, and he says, or I will strike you. I'm going to beat you up. And so finally, Shu'ba ibn al-Hajjaj, he gets quiet for a while, and then he begins to say to him, he goes, حدثنا منصور عن ربعي عن أبي عمر. He goes, it has come to us, it has been narrated an Abi Mas'ud. He said, it has come to us from Mansur, who narrated upon Rib'i, who narrated upon Ibn Mas'ud. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت. He says to him that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you have no shame, then do as you like, or do as you wish. And Abdullah says that when I heard these words, it struck me like an arrow in my chest. He said I was left speechless. He says as it felt like I was knocked to the ground. And so when hearing these words, the words of the Prophet ﷺ, being told to him that if you have no shame, if you don't feel shyness, if you feel no shame, then do whatever you like. You're going to make a scene in the marketplace, you're going to walk around drunk, you're going to abuse people, cuss people out, whatever. You have no respect for a scholar of hadith or whatever. You lack shame, then do as you like. And so he says, this really got to me. He says, I ran home, I took all my bottles of wine and I poured them out. I locked the doors. I told my mother, if anyone comes to see me, any of my friends come to see me, tell them that I don't want to see them. And he sat in that state for a while. And then he pondered and thought about his situation. And he said, what am I doing with my life? I want to be like Shu'bah. I want to be like him. I want to be a carrier and a narrator of hadith. And so he asked the people of his town, he asked them, he said, who is the most knowledgeable person in the world today? And they say to him, today the most knowledgeable person is probably Imam Malik. Where is Imam Malik? He's in Medina. So now Abdullah, he travels all the way to Medina and he studies with Imam Malik. And he becomes one of the students of Imam Malik. And he studies and he studies and he studies until he feels like he's gotten everything he needs to from Imam Malik. And then he asks the people of Medina, who is the second most knowledgeable person on the face of this earth? And they say to him, Shu'bah. He says, Shu'bah from Basra, from Iraq? They say yes. So he rushes back. You know, it wasn't a short flight back then. It took a long time. But he rushed back. He came all the way back to Iraq, to Basra, to study with Shu'bah ibn al-Hajjaj. And as he arrives in Basra, he starts looking for Shu'bah, and he finds out that Shu'bah has passed away. However, we find that Abdullah ibn Maslama al-Qa'nabi continued on to study. And today he's considered one of the great scholars of Islam. And he narrated from many different scholars. Obviously he narrated hadith from Imam Malik. I believe he has about 130 or so narrations mentioned in Sahih al-Bukhari. But when it comes to his teachers, amongst them they have listed Imam Malik and others, but also amongst his teachers they have listed Shu'bah. Did he study with Shu'bah? Yes or no? No, he didn't sit with Shu'bah. He didn't study with him. But he did learn one hadith from Shu'bah. And so under his teachers it says Shu'bah. And the hadith that he narrated, it's been mentioned, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. If you have no shame, if you don't feel shy, then do as you like.